All right, everybody. A slight little change from the original video for lasagna, and the reason for that is again this the pan changed. They ran out of the smaller pans that was originally featured in the video, so I had to go to a bigger pan. So instead of making two smaller lasagnas, we're just going to go ahead and make one bigger. Pardon the noise a little bit, but what I'm doing is I just took a little bit of olive oil and I poured it in the bottom, and I'm just kind of rubbing it along the sides and the bottom, a couple teaspoons worth, just to kind of lubricate the inside of the pan so the noodles and such don't stick. So I've got all of my ingredients ready. I've got, of course, my pasta is cooked. I've got my ground beef, and then there's a little bit of Italian sausage. Now, of course, you know, the amounts that I have are certainly more than I'm going to use for this particular lasagna, and I'm going to be saving, you know, some of it for pizzas as well too. So first is, again, take your loaf pan, you know, make sure it's clean, and then add a little bit of oil to the sides and the bottom. And I'm going to take a little bit of our sauce, and I'm going to put a little bit of sauce in the bottom of the pan. So again, you know, we'll split our sauce up, you know, some for the pizzas and of course some for lasagna. So a little bit of sauce goes in the bottom, just as I've done mine right there, okay? And then I'm going to take a lasagna sheet, and I'm going to, let me reposition this a little bit, lay a lasagna sheet in there, okay? And the lasagna sheet pretty much fits right in there. It's a little long, but that's okay. And a couple of my noodles kind of broke apart during the cooking process, and you know what, that's okay too. I really don't mind that much. So I'm going to put two in there, and I'm going to get a little more tomato sauce. All right, and I'm going to put a little tomato sauce in there, and I'm just going to kind of spread that in. And again, use whatever you have. I'm just using a big spoon. You could use a little spoon, you could use a spatula, you know, whatever you've got. And then we'll just kind of put a little bit of that in. All right, there we go. And in addition to that now, I'm going to add a little bit of ricotta cheese. And I've added my egg to it already. So I'm just going to put a little ricotta in. The egg is for when it cooks, the egg will kind of coagulate, firm up, and help kind of hold it all together. So I'm going to add a little bit of ricotta. Let me get another spoon. There we go, a little bit more. A little bit more. All right, that should be good. All right, and in addition to that now, I'm going to add a little bit of Parmesan cheese. Okay, and some vegetables. And admittedly, I had just a little bit of extra, you know, bell pepper and stuff left in my refrigerator, so I just went ahead and used that. And a little bit of ground beef go in there as well. Okay. Again, it's your lasagna. You know, the cool thing about this is you could add cooked chorizo to it, or ground turkey if you had ground turkey or pork. And I'm going to add a little bit of mozzarella cheese. There we go. And then I'm going to do it again. But now this time, I'm going to lay the noodles going in the opposite direction. So now I'm going to lay them going this way. So I'm just going to kind of measure them up a little bit to the size of my pan, which is about like that. And then I'm just going to cut one. And then the nice thing is I can just, you know, use those and lay those in going in, again, the opposite direction. When I find one that's a little long, I can always, again, kind of trim it down a little bit to get it to fit. And there's another. And another. And then I've got these little end pieces. I can just use these little end pieces to kind of fill that spot in. Nice thing about, again, making a lasagna is once it all kind of bakes, you're not going to really be able to tell the difference if you had a torn pasta noodle or not. So don't worry too much about that. All right, so I'm now going to add a little more tomato sauce. So you're just going to kind of repeat this process now between pasta noodle sauce, ricotta cheese, filling. If you had a poblano, a roasted poblano, or diced jalapeno, if you want to make it a little on the spicier side. And then again, a little more ricotta. Okay. Kind of think of the ricotta as the glue that holds everything together. And I'm using 2 separate spoons for this. So I can use one spoon to kind of spread the ricotta around, and then the other one to dish it so I don't get the ricotta all wet with tomato sauce. A little bit of Parmesan. Okay. And we'll go with a little bit more mozzarella cheese. There we go, that should do. And then a little more peppers. Right there, there we go. And I also have a little bit of mushrooms. I had some mushrooms in my refrigerator. So I'm gonna add a little bit of mushrooms to this layer. There we go. And a little more ground beef. There we go. Just like that. And then for good measure, we will add maybe just a little bit more mozzarella. Okay. All right, there we go. Now, we repeat the process again, but now this time, the layers go the opposite way. Like that. And like that. And maybe I'll take, since I've got some, take a little longer strip and lay it right down the middle there. And I'm going to just kind of push that down gently, just to kind of get everything packed in there. And then, of course, we repeat that process again now. So a little more tomato sauce. And I'm kind of using the spoon a little bit too to kind of push it down, make sure it's nice and packed in there. Oh, that's a nice layer. Okay. And then a little more ricotta. And then just spread that around. Okay. There we go. And of course, we then repeat the process again. A little more vegetables. Add the rest of my mushrooms. There we go. A little bit of ground beef. And you know what I forgot? Forgot to add the cheese, but that's okay. It's okay because it really doesn't matter, because it's all going to melt into itself anyway. So I could certainly add the cheese now. won't hurt. Just like that. Okay? All right, now let's go one other layer. So give myself a little room. I've already measured, so I know how long they need to be. Just like that. Another one. All right, here's another. I'll turn that down just a little bit. Okay, there's another one. And then I have, again, a little half sheet I can use right here. It's kind of like putting a little lasagna puzzle together. Okay, so just like that. And then a little more tomato sauce. This thing is going to feed a small army. Okay, so there's that. That should be good. And then my last of my ricotta, put in there. There we go. So the last of the ricotta goes in. Good. And then a little more vegetables. There we go. A little more. A little bit of ground beef. Right there. There we go. Good. All right. And then just a little more Parmesan. Just like that. And I'm gonna, I think, skip the mozzarella on this one, only because I want to leave enough for the top. So I got my last sheet. I'm just gonna lay my last sheet in there. I am gonna kind of push it down. Kind of trim that up a little bit. Let's see. Can I do that? I got a pair of little kitchen shears. I'm gonna just trim off a little bit like that. And then this one, I'm gonna go ahead and just trim a little bit off ahead of time. Okay, like that. And then I got a little piece here. Then I'm gonna cut in half. And I'm gonna put that right down the middle, like such. There we go. That looks nice. Just kind of piece it together a little bit. Do the last of my sauce on the top. Okay. Just like that. Go. And then the last thing is a little bit of mozzarella cheese on the top, like such. Just like that. And a little bit of Parmesan. Just like that. And this is ready now for the oven. Weighs like 7 pounds, maybe even more. Now, what you might want to do, not want to do, might want to do, you should do. Make sure that you put a sheet tray underneath it, okay? Because it is going to boil over a little bit. You certainly could, if you wanted to, kind of tilt up the edges a little, kind of hold everything in place. And then we're going to want to monitor it in the oven, okay? And what I'm going to be looking for is at the top. Doesn't get too dark. What I like to do when I'm doing mine, and I am going to do, is I like to first cover it with plastic. And I'll show you here. Let me clean some of this up just a little bit. So I like to, like I said, take a little bit of plastic first. I know that sounds odd, but let me show you. All right, so like I just said, I like to plastic first. And the reason for that is the cheese will not stick to the plastic. The cheese will, however, stick to the aluminum foil. So I like to do a little plastic first, then I'll do aluminum foil. After the fact. So then I'll come back in and cover it with aluminum foil. Okay. Now my suggestion is 350 degrees because of its size. It's a pretty big lasagna. So I've just adjusted mine to 350. I'm going to get myself a sheet tray. I'm going to put the lasagna on the sheet tray. It's going to go in the oven. I'll set my timer for about a half an hour. And I'll check the temperature at that point. And if it's hot, internal temperature of at least 165 degrees, and the cheese is melted